morning, geometry class. Let me say I am proud of many of you for sticking with this digital learning for the last 7 or 8 weeks, however long it's been. What we are doing this week is simply factoring to get you ready for Algebra 2. There will not be any assignments on Canvas, all right? I'll do about 5 or 6 problems each day, and maybe I'll have you attempt a couple on your own on a piece of scratch paper or whatever. But what you want to do is, if you have currently a failing grade, there's only 4 or 5 of you that are below 70. One is right at 69. There's another one at 62, I think. For sure those two have a shot still at getting to 70. And what you need to do is you need to go back into the digital learning parts and see what things you have not completed, possibly, or what you have a low score on, and do another attempt until you get higher scores. You want to get those scores up to 80, 90, hundreds, and hopefully it'll bring your grade up. So do that this week, okay? I'm thinking of 2 of you for sure. There are then 3 of you that are like below 60 roughly, and probably will have to take geometry a second time, or maybe it's your 3rd time, I don't know. So anyway, the majority of you, great job, all right? Please hang in there. Anyway, all right, so here's factoring. What we need to do is we're going to do greatest common factoring today. So I've got a couple problems and we'll go through them, then I'll put 2 more problems on and so forth. So this first one, negative 12n squared minus 30n. What you want to do is you want to look to see if it's in descending order. This one is n squared, then n. This one is not m squared, n cubed. That's not in descending order, so we'll have to rearrange that. But this one's in good order. So I need to find what number I can take out of, what number and how many variables can I take out of each thing. So a 12 and a 30, well, they're even, so I could take a 2 out. But is that the highest number I can take out? So let's think, a 3, can I take a 3 out of 12? Yes. 3 divides out of 12. Does a 3 divide out of 30? Yes. Can I take a 4? 4 can divide out of 12, but 4 can't divide out of 30. 30 divided by 4 does not come out nice and even. Can I take a 5 out of 12? No. How about a 6? I can take a 6 out of 12. 12 divided by 6 comes out to be 2. 30 divided by 6, ding, 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 comes out. Can I take a 12 out of 30? No. So 6 is the biggest number. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a 6 out. And since the first term is negative, I need to take that negative sign out with it. So I'm taking a negative 6 out. All right. Now, I have n squared and n. That n squared means I have 2 of those n's. It's like saying nn. And this has 1 n. All right, so how many n's can I take out of, and you have to take out of both of them the same amount. Can I take 2 n's out of this? Sure. Can I take 2 n's out of this? No, because there's not 2 there. So I can't take an n squared out of both. I can take an n and an n out. So I'm taking an n out with it. So my GCF is negative 6n. All right? Then I make a parentheses, and what I have to do is I have to figure out, well, what will then change out of this whole thing? If I'm dividing a negative 6n out of everything, so here's kind of how I have taught it. If you take that negative 6n and you write it underneath of both of these terms, all right? So negative divided by negative will be positive, okay? And a negative 12 divided by negative 6 is a positive 2. All right, negative 12 over negative 6 is a positive 2. N squared over n, well, I can cancel out that n and one of those n, so there's still an n there. Okay? Negative 30 divided by negative 6 is a positive 5. N over n undo each other, they kind of disappear, so boom, that's what you have. Negative 6n is the GCF times then this new parentheses, this new binomial will make what we originally started with, okay? So that's called greatest common factoring, okay? And you can see negative 6n times 2n would make negative 12n squared. Negative 6n times 5 would make a negative 30n, which is what you started with. So there it is. That is how you GCF factor that. All right, this one. It's not in descending order. So first, we need to rearrange it. So we're going to put negative 39m cubed plus 26m squared plus 13m, since that's positive. Okay? All right. What's the biggest number I can take out of? Well, notice 13. All right. Can I take a 2? No, these aren't even. So not a 2. Can a 3 go out of 13? No. 13 is like prime. So the only thing that will divide out of 13 is 13. Well, can you go 26 divided by 13? Yep, that's 2. Can you take a negative 39 divided by 13? And so we find out that 13 is in fact the GCF. Since this first term is negative, I'm taking a negative out with it. This has MMM, this has MM, this has M. So what is the greatest common factor? How many M's can I take out of each of these? All right? I can't take 2 M's out of this because there's not 2. I can't take 3 M's out of this because there's not 3. I can take an M out of everything. So negative 13m is my GCF. Okay, so then if I write underneath of each of these a negative 13m, because that's what I'm doing. Okay, then negative 39 divided by negative 13 is a positive 3. M cubed over m, that ends up making it m squared. 26 divided by negative 13 is a negative 2. M squared over m, that m cancels out one of those m's, so I have an m. 13m, 13 divided by negative 13 is a negative 1. M over m cancels each other out. And so that's what you end up with. So negative 13m times this trinomial 3m squared minus 2m minus 1 is in fact how you do GCF factoring. Now, this should not be new for you. You had factoring back in Algebra 1. So we're just refreshing your brains because factoring in Algebra 2 is such a huge thing. Okay? All right, there's the first 2 problems. All right, let me erase, and we'll put 2 more up here. All right. 18m squared n to the 4th minus 12m squared n cubed plus 24m squared n squared. Hi, Nala. Thanks for coming in here. Really don't have room for any other problems. All right, so here's number 3. All right, 18, 12, and 24. What's the biggest number I can take out of 18, 12, and 24? Right away, the number 6 pops into my head, okay? I can take a 6 out of 18. 6 will go into each of these numbers evenly. So 6. First term's positive, so this is going to be positive. All right, now, how many m's? I have m squared, m squared, m squared. So I can take an m squared out of everything. All right. How many n's? 4 n's, 3 n's, 2 n's. So I can take 2 n's out of everything also. So there's my GCF. Okay, now, Here's another way of looking at this, okay? Instead of dividing, here's another way that maybe you've had a teacher teach you back in Algebra 1. What do you need to multiply this GCF by to get this first term originally? Well, 6 times what gets you 18? 3. M squared, n squared. Well, m squared times nothing will get me m squared still. N squared, but I need to get to n to the 4th, means I need an n squared. N squared times n squared will make n to the 4th. Okay, next term. What times 6 gets me negative 12? A negative 2. M squared, so I don't need any m's here. N squared to n cubed, I need an n. N squared times n will get me n cubed. All right? Third term. What do I need to multiply 6 by to get 24? A 4. And it needs to be positive. M squared to m squared, so that's already good. I already have an m squared. N squared to n squared, that's good. Boom. There's your GCF factoring for that problem. Okay? And of course, in the future, we would have to do more factoring probably to this thing here. Okay? But that's for another day. All right? Let's go to another one, number 4. The fourth one that we're going to do. 40x squared minus 100xy minus 80y squared. All right? All right. So, trinomial, not really. I mean, it is in already descending order, x squared, xy, y squared. Okay? So what's the biggest number that I can take out of 40, 100, and 80? Some of you are thinking 2. It's either all even. Higher. 5. Higher. 10. I can take a 10 out of 40. Higher. You're right. 20. All right, so I can take a 20 out. Now, how many x's do they all have? X squared, x, no x's. Okay, so I can't take an x out. How many y's? Well, this has a y, this has a y squared, this doesn't. So this is the GCF, 20. So, here we go. What do I need to multiply 20 by to get 40x squared? Well, a 2 and an x squared. What do I need to multiply 20 by to get a negative 100xy? Well, 20 times what gets you negative 100? A negative, so 20 times what gets you 100? 5. And so 20 times negative 5 is a negative 100. I still need an x and a y. Okay? What times 20 will get me a negative 80? A negative 4. And what times 20 gets me a negative 80 y squared? Well, I've got the negative 4, but I still need a y squared. And there it is. So 20 is the GCF, and then the remaining new factor is this trinomial, 2x squared minus 5xy minus 40y squared. Okay? And that's our fourth problem. Moving on. Hopefully you're remembering this and like going, oh yeah, I got this. 12x to the 5th y squared plus 9x to the 4th y squared minus 6x cubed y squared. Okay? 12, 9, and negative 6. What's the biggest number I can take out of all of them? And if you're thinking, well, 12 is the biggest number, but I can't take a 12 out of 9. 9 divided by 12 does not work. Can I divide, since this is the smallest number of the 3, can I divide a 6 out of everything? Well, 12 divided by 6 works, but does 9 divided by 6 work? Well, not really. It comes out to be 1.5. So let's take a 3 out of everything. All right, so if I take a 3 out, since the first term's positive, my GCF will be positive, okay? All right, so I know I'm taking the 3 out. Look at my x's. I have 5 x's, 4 x's, 3 x's. So what's the biggest amount of x's that I can take out of all of these? You're right, x cubed. All right? Look at your y's. Y squared, y squared, y squared. What's the amount of y's I can take out? Yep, y squared. So there's my GCF, 3x cubed y squared. Okay? All right. Try and finish that. Pause the video and go ahead and try and finish that. Yeah, click pause. Pop. All right. So, what times 3 gets me 12? 4. What times x cubed gets me x to the 5th? X squared. What times y squared gets me y squared? Nothing. Okay. What times 3 gets me 9? A positive 3. What times x cubed gets me x to the 4th? An x. What times y squared gets me y squared? Nothing. Moving on. What times 3 gets me negative 6? A negative 2. What times x cubed gets me x cubed? Nothing. What times x squared gets me x squared? No, or y squared? Nothing. There it is. Did you get that? 3x cubed y squared is the GCF times 4x squared plus 3x minus 2. Hopefully you got that. All right, last one. Three x to the 4th minus 30x cubed plus 27x squared. All right, first off, is it in descending order? Or the powers descending? X to the 4th, x cubed, x squared. Yes. All right, go ahead. Pause the video and try and work this out all the way. Beep, pause. All right, so hopefully you realize that I can take a 3 out of everything and an x squared out of everything. And then that leaves you with an x squared minus 10x plus 9. Now, this is a trinomial that you'd be familiar with, and you have learned how to factor that. Okay, so our GCF is 3x squared. But this trinomial should be able to factor into 2 sets of parentheses. Pause the video and see if you can remember how to do that type of factor, just regular factoring of a trinomial. Yeah, pause. All right, so the only thing that makes x squared is x times x. The factors of 9 are 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. Which pair of numbers will get me to 10? 1 and 9. Put 1 in one of them, put 9 in the other. Now, how do we do our signs? Here's how. They multiply to be a positive 9, so that means that either they're both positives, because a positive 1 times a positive 9 makes a positive 9, or they're both negative. Negative 1 times a negative 9 makes a positive 9. So we look to the middle term. Ding, ding, ding. This is where we look. Right here. Okay? Negative 10. Since that's negative, both of these have to have negative signs. X squared, negative 9x, negative 1x. I'm multiplying. That makes a negative 10x. Right? X times a negative 9 is negative 9x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. So negative 9x, negative 1x combined to make negative 10x. And negative 1 times negative 9 is a positive 9. This is total factoring right there. That is the answer. We factored out the GCF, and we factored the trinomial further. Okay? All right, I'll maybe have a couple problems that you can try, but really go on Canvas if you feel like I want my grade higher, and do something that will bring your grade higher. Peace out.